Hola, hola, and welcome to the Cultura Cash podcast. This is Gigi, your host. I'm a finfluencer, financial educator, and the award-winning author of Cultura Cash. And today I am joined by my book coach, Stacy Ennis. Here's a little bit about Stacy. Stacy is a best-selling author, book coach, and speaker on a mission to help leaders clarify their ideas and harness their unique story to make an impact. Her background includes impacting more than 100 books in her 16 plus years in publishing, ghostwriting for a Nobel Prize winner in medicine, woo, and leading as executive editor on Sam's Club's Healthy Living Made Simple, a publication that reached around 11 million readers. Stacy's work and writing have been featured in Yahoo, Inc., Insider, Publishers Weekly, Katie Couric, and the TEDx stage. Stacy is also the host of the podcast Beyond Better, which is one of my favorite podcasts, by the way, and holds a master's in writing and editing from the University of Cincinnati. Welcome to the pod, Stacy.
Gio, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yay! So, Stacy, we're going to have you on today to talk a little bit about book writing and your expertise in that area. I know that a lot of my followers are either curious about writing a book or have ambitions to write a book. So, I think this is going to be a real treat for some of them. First, Stacy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience as a book coach?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. And, you've already inspired so many people on their own author journeys. So I appreciate you having me on and getting to share more. So my journey as a book coach started as a reader, age 7, wrote my first poem at that age, and I was just hooked from age 7. I just decided this is my life's path. And then as I grew, in high school, you could take elective courses. So I took all the writing I could, went on, got my
Wow.
bachelor's in writing, did my first editorial assistantship. It was like an internship at my university alumni magazine. Um, then I moved abroad. So we lived in the Dominican Republic and Vietnam, but I knew I was going to go back to grad school. And my dream really was to be a writer. That was all I wanted to do in my whole life. And so while I was living in Vietnam, I launched my business. It was kind of actually, no, I launched it in the DR, but I grew it in Vietnam. And it was really like all these starts and stops and trying to figure out how to do this as a profession. I tried to be a travel writer, which is not a great way to make money. Great for exposure, not so good for making money. I tried all different avenues. I actually worked for a Dominican Republic travel website for a while, which was tricky because my Spanish was not very good and I had to get on the phone and have conversations in Spanish. Anyway, after a lot of starts and stops, I got my first opportunity ghostwriting part of a textbook. And that really set in motion future opportunities. I started editing books, eventually started ghostwriting books. As you mentioned in the intro, I worked for a Nobel Prize winner in medicine for 4 years, had an editorial assistantship in university, and basically just kind of moved editing, ghostwriting, authoring, all of the things. And as I did, I built my system and my coaching philosophy. And that's what I do today is I help other people either tap into their love of writing and write a book or fall in love with writing as they write their book. And it's just a joy.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's so cool that you've wanted to do this since you were a kid and you followed through with it and you've had so much experience in the field. That's a big reason why I decided to work with you because I came across a lot of book coaches that they'd written a book once and now they're like, no, I'm a book coach. And I'm like, I don't know if that's enough. Right. So
Yeah.
seeing your bio and seeing how you've always had writing as part of your life really, really stood out to me from the competition. You're like the real deal.
Yeah, and to your point, that's always a struggle for me too when I see other professionals that have only written 1 or 2 books, and it's not even just the book writing; it's also the long experience of writing and understanding a lot of different types of writing, different voices. When I was running the Sam's Club magazine, 11 million readers, I was writing 50% of the magazine content from different
Yeah.
people for every single article. So I had like the pharmacy section that I had to write. Sometimes I was writing for celebrities. Sometimes I was writing for a scientist. And I had to learn how to hone a different voice and really
Mhm.
understand the reader's needs and how this person was going to come across. And that that experience of learning how to tap into voice, which I think is even more important today, more important than ever with generative
Yeah.
AI.
Mhm.
Um, that is such a bedrock. You know, knowing how to write your own book is one thing. Knowing how to write for other people is another
Yeah.
thing, but then also testing that out and guiding a lot of other people through the journey is a whole different animal.
Good. Awesome. We're so lucky to have you on the pod. Thanks for being on again. So Stacy, I know a lot of people are probably wondering like, okay, a book coach sounds nice. It sounds like it's additional money because you're hiring somebody for your help, right? The question I have for you is, can people write a book on their own, especially if it's their first book? And then when does it make sense to work with a book coach?
Mhm. Well, sure. I mean, people have been writing books on their own for forever. That's definitely something that you can do. I think what we see statistically is that most people don't do it. You know, it's one of those goals that sit out there for, you know, maybe it's lots of starts and stops. Maybe, you know, you keep telling yourself like this is the year I'm going to write my book, but it just doesn't happen. And I think that there's a number of reasons for that. Usually, what the person tells themselves is, I'm not ready. I don't know if I'm good enough, which expresses through, will anyone want to read this? Who do I think I am to write a book? So there's all this kind of self talk that builds up. I don't have time, but we're spending like 2 hours on social media during the day. You know, we have like all these things.
All these
Um,
distractions.
yeah, I mean, like your recent episode that you did, I feel like is such a like that's literally clearing space for writing a book, clearing
Yeah.
all that time out. Um, and so you can do it, but like most things in life, all this other stuff takes precedence, it takes over.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
I think that the other thing that people forget is that's a skill that you have to learn. So I don't know if you had to learn a manual car when you moved to Spain, Gio, but I did when
Oh,
I
we're
moved to
still
Portugal.
carless. No.
Oh man, that was an adventure, and you know, it was a new skill, and I thought I would never be able to do it, but now I can like eat and drive a stick shift at the same time.
Nice.
And book writing is a skill like playing piano, like riding a bike, like driving a manual car.
Yeah.
And that is a skill that you have to learn. There's the skill of writing, there's the skill of book writing, and having a system and a process to do that and somebody to give you coaching and support is so important. When are you ready to invest or when does it make sense? I think, well, for the people that I work with a very specific type of person. So this is somebody who the book is not the end all be all. So for me, now there are people that work with, for example, like a literary memoir. That would mean your goal in that is purely the memoir, which love those, read those, but that's just not the area I work in. I work with people who the book is connected to something bigger than themselves. So it could be, I work with a lot of nonprofit leaders. I work with a lot of people doing good in the world like you, business leaders, corporate transitions. So they're launching from maybe C-level or senior leadership into their next thing. And so those people, they don't just want to write a book, they want to write a strategically positioned book, and they want to do it as great as they can in a reasonable time frame. So they
Mhm.
don't want to spend like 10 years, which I have seen more than once, you know, kind of
What?
tinkering. Oh yeah, it's so common.
So
Tale as
much
old as time.
changes in 10
Yes,
years. The world
that's what
changed.
happens is they're like, well, I can't use this anymore. Start over.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
so it's like if you know you have a big vision, you know that you want this book to be a catalyst for that big vision, and you want to make sure this is a shelf stable business sustainability tool or brand tool or impact tool. I think that's when it makes sense to invest in somebody like me or my colleagues, other people that are coaches out there.
Yeah, and I'll say from personal experience, I definitely took a stab at trying to write by myself. And like you said, right, there's if you don't have structure, if you don't have accountability, like it can just be very easy for other priorities to pop up and take that space instead, whether it's work or family or health situations, right? So I didn't make much progress when I was working on my own. And working with you, I believe our time was 6 months together. That gave me that accountability that I needed, where I'm like, Stacy's going to check on my writing. And I can't show up and be like, oh, I didn't write anything. Right. So just like when I was working with the trainer and when I was in Chicago, that's the only reason I showed up to the gym to work on weight training, which I always struggle to stick to weight training because I think it's so boring. But I know the health benefits of it and that I have to do it, and that's what helped me, knowing that my trainer, shout out to Julio was waiting for me, and he'd message me, "Where are you? You're 10 minutes late." Right? So knowing that I paid someone and that they're waiting for me gave me that motivation to actually get the thing done. So that really really was a game changer for me. I've always cited working with you as a book coach as a big reason for why it actually got done. So that's so cool. That's so cool. And yeah, I mean, if you can try again, you can try doing it yourself. You're gonna see that it might make more sense to work with somebody who's been there before, not just one time, not twice, many times, many times. So thank you for sharing that. And then the next question is, as a book coach, what themes and challenges often arise during the writing process?
Well, there's many that have been around for a while, but the newest one that I'm coming up against is the use of AI in the ideation process, which has been really interesting to navigate. Um, Basically, don't do it because it just authors down. Not only are you getting guided to a very generic, basic book idea, the same structure. I'm seeing like these people are like, oh yeah, I've worked on an outline. It's like the same outline across different topics. But it also like there is part of the process of the part of the journey is the struggle. Like that is part of finding clarity. It's part of finding patterns, making connections. So that is a new one that I'm navigating. I'm learning how to be gentle in the coaching, but also clear. So, because sometimes this is already stopping authors before they even get to me. So
Exactly. Yeah.
they are so stuck because they've gotten this really boring idea that's not even theirs and they're not connected to it and they think that they think it sounds good but it's not from their heart and it's not really connected to their purpose. I think on the other side of that we have the normal like stuff. We have priorities that get in the way, which we already talked about. um, a lot of people in my industry know of this thing called the 20,000 word abandonment point. So around a little less than halfway to the draft being done, average book draft is 50 to 60,000 words, nonfiction. You know, authors start to lose steam and you start to go, wow, I've not even written half of this and I still have a lot to go. I think a lot of what I'm helping authors through is discover how to access flow on a regular basis. And so some of that is lifestyle design. So, you know, we might come into a coaching session and they're like, I just feel like I'm just going through the motions. I'm not really like enjoying it. Okay, let's talk about how many days did you write this week? What time did you write at? I do ask, what is your social media life like? Like, what does that look like? How are you sleeping? You know, so many of these things that really come into play when it comes to our creative work. And then probably the biggest barrier that I see for authors is just their internal world. It's all of that self-talk that shuts you down before you get this draft even done and start moving into the next step. And what I think is interesting is that flow state that I mentioned. The my favorite definition of flow is low levels of self-referential thinking. So we're not thinking of our own self, which is amazing for the work that you do as an author, the work that I get to help people do, because this is why I like working with authors like you, because you're not focused on yourself. You're there to serve a community. You're there to, you know, share expertise or share an
Mhm.
uplifting story or whatever it is. And so a lot of times in coaching, it's just kind of redirecting toward that vision and shining the spotlight off of our own insecurities and onto the people that we're there to show up for.
This is so insightful, especially the new piece about AI. Because, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
when I worked with you in 2022, AI is not what it is now in 2026. So I want to ask you a quick question about AI. But before I do that, when we're on the topic of flow, I already know the answer to this, but I want people to hear it from the experts' lips, right? So, speaking of flow, what would you say that somebody that plans to write every weekend is somebody that's in the flow state with their writing only on the
Mm.
weekends?
Most people are going to, even if you just look at the research on flow, consistent time, you're much better off to write less time more often than to write during one big block on the weekend. Um, Absolutely, like that's scientific. We can go and look at the research on that. And I would say that sometimes there's exceptions where I worked with an author recently who genuinely just had the weekends. Like that was the only time it was going to work for her. And so we put together a plan. We talked about like exactly where you're going to be, how are you going to get into this mindset to be able to create
Wow.
what you're going to do the night before. So one of my favorite like writing hacks is night before or end of your work day before, just read your outline for the next day. So when you're sleeping, it kind of plants the seeds for that next writing session. So my absolutely, I would always rather, and again, scientifically proven that if you want to access flow state regularly, quickly, consistently, and it to genuinely be an amazing experience, yeah, you're right. It's that consistency, it's that discipline, it's that showing up. Even if it's like, I'd rather you do 30 minutes a day than 2.5 hours on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get much better work done that way.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. And regarding the use of AI, so fun fact, I only used AI once in my writing. I used it to come up with a name for the quiero y puedo approach because I'm just like, this is a method, but I don't know what to call it. I was just so close to the work that I'm like, I have no idea. And David's like, why don't you try AI? So I'm like, all right. He had Chat GPT back then. And yeah, we put in what it was and who it helped. And it gave us several options. We're like, no, try again. And then it gave me the Quiero y Puedo approach. I'm like, ooh, I like that. So that's the extent that I used it to. Since then, I've spoken to another author and she said she used, um, it's called Speechify. Are you familiar with Speechify, where it reads
Yeah,
it
I
out
think it's
loud?
like a dictation kind of app, isn't it?
Yeah, so it you know how like Microsoft Word like it has that dictation, but I think it's very robotic where like this has Snoop Dogg as a narrator, Gwyneth Paltrow as a narrator. So it's a lot more human like in that sense because it sounds like a real person.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so she said she used it to review her work, right? Because you kind of get sick of reading the same stuff. So she said
Hmm.
she used it to review her work, and I'm actually planning to use it for the Spanish manuscript because same thing. I'm sick of writing it or reading it, excuse me, and I rather have this speechify thing read it to me while I'm I don't know doing errands or cooking or something like that. So it's so interesting though to hear that new authors, as somebody who's been through the writing process with you and knows your method, that they're tapping into AI so early on. Do you have a role for them, like no AI until this stage of the process? Are you, because you mentioned you're being gentle, but I just go back to me again. I remember the ideation process where just brain dumping what you want to write about in the book and what you have expertise in, what you want to bring to the table. And now AI, if you ask AI, they're just making it noisier, right?
Yeah.
Like they
And
might bring
guiding you as
and what
well. They're guiding you,
well, yeah, like
you
maybe
know?
there's a topic that AI spits out that you're like, actually, that is a good topic. I should bring this up. But if it doesn't come from the heart, right, or from your lived experience and your expertise, yeah, you should include it. But then you're probably not going to do a great job because, again, it wasn't your original idea; it was AI's, right? So,
Yeah.
um, do you tell them no AI until the stage, or do you just kind of see where it goes and
Yeah, I do. I tell them no AI. I mean, obviously they're grown-ups, so they get to decide. And
yeah,
I do have actually a agreement in my contract about it as well.
mm-hmm.
Um, like ultimately they're going to make their own choice, but
Sure,
I really, I mean, I think there's also some real ethical issues with it. I did an episode probably like maybe 2 years ago with my friend Manpreet on bias in AI. That's still such a huge,
Mm.
huge issue. It's plagiarism is a real thing. Like I don't know how you could understand how it works without considering it plagiarism to use generative AI because it's training on people like me, people like you. Um, and right now, I just got back from the London Book Fair. Publishers are saying, traditional publishers, if there is one line of generative AI in a book, gone. They will not take it on. It's too much of a
Wow.
liability risk. And this is at an international stage. This isn't just the US.
Yeah.
It can't be copyrighted as of right now. Like there's just so many issues with it. And I also don't really understand the people that are using it in like a collaborative writing way because
Me
to
neither.
me, I'm like, do you really want to write a book? Because it doesn't seem like it to me. If you're going to use technology to create this book with you, that's not, you don't get to say now that I wrote a book. You can say I collaborated with ChatGPT to write a book. That's fine. But I think we have to call it what it is. And I don't think there are enough people out there calling it out. And it's so normalized. It's so just kind of like, well, that's just how it is. But we're just hearing that from all the tech people. That's who's telling us what the future is going to look like. We can shape the future.
Totally.
Yeah. And interestingly, even this week, Gio, I sent out an email. I got so many replies to it, and somebody wrote me and was like, "I love how you wrote this email," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's because I wrote it."
Because you wrote it. Yeah, I
Like an
love your
actual
emails.
person. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I think that people like you clearly like when you send your newsletter, it's you.
People know it's me. Yeah.
People are going to stay subscribed to your newsletter. They're going to stay subscribed to me because we're humans. That's what
Yeah.
we want. We want more human. And that's
Yeah.
like that's like the most human to me. It's like one of the most human creations that exists.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad we tapped into that because that's such an interesting part of it. And that's just a big monster, right? But we just kind of touch the surface. Okay, good. The next question is that most of my listeners I know are high driven Latinas who have a book inside them. And I know this because they DM me that, or when I meet them at book tour stops, they'll share, like, I want to write a book too. What are some tips, right? Have you worked with Latinas or other women of color in the past? And what have the book topics covered?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I've worked with tons and tons of people of color, women of color, lots of Latinas. And Gio, you know this, but I think I mentioned earlier that I lived in the DR for a time. It wasn't that long. I think we were there like a year and a half, but it was in my early 20s, and it was such a formative time in my life. I moved from Idaho, Whiteaho, as we call it, because it's like 87% white. I don't even know what the white population was at my school. You look at me, I mean, I'm like as white as they look,
She's a
right? Like
white girl, people. Yeah.
I'm like a real
If
basic,
you're watching this on
real,
YouTube, you'll see Stacy's white. Yeah.
like, where's her Starbucks? I like that's, I'm just gonna own it.
Where's your
Um,
Taylor Swift?
I mean, but that's fair. I'm gonna just say Eras tour for life. It was amazing. But I think, moving from Idaho, which is the only place I had ever lived, to the DR, and then like kind of a late coming of age there, and then moving from there to Vietnam. I don't know. I was also in the DR during the Haiti earthquake, and I witnessed the most extreme racism. I never thought I would experience something like that in person. I remember one time outside of our school in the DR where I taught, there was a man having a seizure on the ground. He was Haitian, and people were literally just like stepping over him. I was the
Oh my
only
God.
person that came over with a bottle of water. Are you okay? And then I went to the school after, and I was really upset. And they just brushed it off like, oh, he was just trying to take advantage of you. And after that, I rewrote my entire curriculum for my high school that I was teaching. So we studied Maya Angelou. We talked openly about racism in our classroom. Racism was normalized in the school that I was in, and it was really tough for me to kind of like, it was like my mission there was like, I'm going to change your minds. Like, we're going to talk about this and um, we're going to really like confront this and have conversations about this in our classroom. I don't think everybody loved that I did that, but I did it anyway because it just felt like what I needed to do. Um, and so that was a really interesting experience. And then at the same time, getting, um, I think so like loved Dominican culture and like comados and like I took merengue lessons and all that stuff. Um, and then just all of the different communities that we've lived in all over the world. I was just at a birthday party where I was the only American. It was just like 40 people from different countries. Um, for me, that's the world that I live in, even though I don't look like I belong in that world. And it is my greatest honor of my life to get to be a facilitator for stories and voices that are being gate kept. Like they're not being given traditional publishing deals. They're not,
Mhm.
and if they are, they're very pigeonholed usually. It's like, oh, okay, well, you can only talk to this one group of people. And sometimes that is the community that you want to serve anyway, and that's great. But it shouldn't be predetermined for you before you ever write or open your mouth that you're only valuable for this one group. There's just so many things that I wish I could change in my very white industry, in a very, it's like I think publishing is 80 something percent white. It's like crazy.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm not that I recognize that I lack some things being a white person and not having the lived experience. Like I'm not Latina, I'm not a Black woman, but I want to learn, and I think that that is my posture going into every coaching relationship is just like, let me, like, I know I'm here to teach you this skill and this thing, but like
The
I'm
technical
also,
part of it.
yeah, and also like, I mean, as a coach you show up in a very human way in that relationship. um and then I think like I mentioned, I work with a lot of amazing Latina authors. We have Hadi, our mutual connection, Hadi Mendez. I worked with an amazing woman named Regina Lawless, who was the former head of DEI at Instagram. Just so cool. Like sometimes I'm like, how did I get to do this? It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, and that was a big selling point for me too when I was checking you out, was that I saw you did have that international living experience. And I'm like, okay, yeah, she's not just like a white girl. She's a white girl that's immersed herself in different cultures. And I knew that with that you would have a different worldview. So yeah, it's definitely something that sets you apart. Speaking of Latinas and book writing, when working with Latinas, have you noticed a pattern in barriers or concerns that arise during the writing process? And how have you been able to help those authors through those challenges?
Hmm. Yeah, I know you're so good at prepping for things, Gio. So I had to really think about this one because I was like, okay, because I've noticed that many of the barriers that hold back Latina authors are shared pretty widely by women in general, and I see a lot. I think one theme that I see is just not being practiced in investing in yourself.
Hmm.
Like this is a standard that I set for myself, is that I invest in my growth, I invest in support, I invest in myself in various ways. And I do think that that is more broadly thematic for women, but it is something that I have noticed in a lot of conversations with the amazing future Latina authors that I've spoken with. Um, I think the other barrier that I see is just that there has, sometimes when people of color go into the publishing process and maybe they try to go the traditional route first and they get rejected, they don't really understand all of the like deep whiteness and the many, many, many layers that exist in this industry. Like we know that every industry is like this, but publishing is really pretty bad when it comes to gatekeeping out voices and determining like who's valuable, who's worthy, what audiences are we going to buy books for, invest in authors. And so I think then there's that probably more systematic that's not just publishing. There's all these different places that you're getting shut down or told no, or you don't fit, or you're not what we want. And then that starts to become oh, maybe that's true.
Yeah, it can be very
Maybe,
deflating.
yeah, absolutely. And I only know that as a woman, but not so much. I mean, even as a white woman, I fit into most spaces, so it's not really the same. And so, a lot of questions I get is, so what do you think about my idea? Or do you think this is a good idea? Um, which I get, because especially if you're going to invest in something, you're going to put the energy and time into something, then you want to make sure that it's valuable and that, it's worth your time and energy. Um, but on this other side of this, I have to say, like, I love working with women of color. And I would say, like, all of the Latina clients that I worked with are the like fiercest. Like, I'm getting this done. Nothing is stopping me. I think of you, Gio, your health in the middle of this process, and the fact that you were like, it's whatever, like, I'm doing it. Like, you got back
For
to it.
anybody that doesn't know, yeah, she's talking about when I had to get a hysterectomy. I was in the production phase because we had done the first draft and we were doing the editing, and I went to the doctor with terrible abdominal pain. I was in the ER for 9 hours, and they're like, "Oh, you actually have several fibroids in your uterus that are irritating your uterus, and we're going to have to operate on you within the next month." And I said, I can't do surgery. I'm writing a book.
Yeah.
I'm like, can we wait for another 3 months? They're like, no. They're like, the reason that you were in the ER for so long is because the pain's that bad. That means you have to have it removed. And at the time they hadn't told me, but they were concerned it might be cancerous because the growth was so fast and I hadn't noticed it. Luckily, knock on wood, it was all good. But yes, actually, that's a good segue into the next question. So, um, as a true Leo through and through, I'm going to make this about me now. So
Good.
many aspiring authors see my work with Cultura and Cash as a success. I see it as a success too. Um, you had an inside look into what it took to bring Cultura and Cash to life, to make it a success. But you also saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. As my book coach, what do you think I did well or differently that led to the success of the book?
Hmm. Well, I mean, I can piggyback for sure on just the fact that you stuck with it. You didn't go, well, I guess that just means timing's not right, and you put it away and you never pick it up, which happens a lot. I mean, the number of books that have been half written and never see the light of day is really sad. You did not do that. You had that. You understood that you needed to re-engage your momentum because your momentum was gone. You had
After my
momentum.
surgery, yeah, I was so
Yeah.
pissed at the world. Yeah, I had worked all through the holidays, Thanksgiving and the Christmas holidays, for then this to happen and to slow down my writing. I was so upset at the world. I'm like, I did everything right, but the world is doing this to me. And you were really
Yeah.
helpful with that. You're like, we
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're very, like I mentioned, that fierceness. It's like you were you really saw that this needed to get done, but you also recognized that you didn't have what you needed within you to re-engage it. Like, you needed support from other people, and you, like, a conversation, or moving it with your publisher, moving it out. I remember that you had to adjust your publishing date. So rather than
Which
just going,
actually worked
well,
out for the better, because I don't know
yeah,
if
it
you
did.
remember. Yeah, I was supposed to launch during Hispanic Heritage Month, and I had worked so hard to try to meet that deadline, that arbitrary deadline, because I had set it, and then I had to postpone all the way till January. And it actually worked out because I started seeing a lot of authors publishing during Hispanic Heritage Month, and there's a lot of noise during that time. So
Yeah.
January was actually a lot quieter and kind of gave me the space to promote the book the way that it needed to be promoted. I didn't know that at the time, but that was something fun that came out of that. But
Yeah,
yeah, talking
and
to the
it was
publisher, pushing it back.
January is a great month for financial books
Yeah,
anyway, so it all
yeah.
worked out so well. And that brings
Mhm.
me to the next thing that I think about whenever I think about you. And You're such a great business person. You're so good at investing where you need to and outsourcing when you need to.
Thank
And
you.
if more people did that sooner, they would be happier, more financially successful. But that's also like a cultural barrier that you have to overcome in American culture, at least, that, you're autonomous, you're an island, you do it on your own. But you don't like wait until you're flailing around and wasting a bunch of time and money. You're like, nope, I know I need this help. I'm gonna find a person. I'm gonna hire that person. I'm gonna do it. And I think you should teach a class on this because it's such a unique thing, and so many business owners are not great at this. Um, and then I think the last thing that comes to mind for me is just that you were so anchored in purpose during this project.
Right.
And I mean, you're a dream to work with because every decision that you made at every single stage was for your reader. It was always about your reader. It was always about
I
your
was
community.
so protective. They have no idea how
Yeah,
protective I was
so
over
much.
them.
From changing your editor later on
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
as you've shared about. And I think because you got super clear on that at the beginning and you felt with your grant that you won, your amazing grant, I just think you had such a purpose to it. And
Yeah.
that really set you apart from a lot of other authors.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, that's you captured everything. And then regarding the point about hiring out, yes, definitely, it's a fear of like, do I have enough money? Is this going to be worth it? Am I going to get scammed? But also thinking, no, I should struggle through it and do it on my own. I will say I haven't always been good at getting support. One time when I first started out in business 5 years ago, I actually hired too soon because I was seeing
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of my peers had virtual assistants, and I'm like, well, I need a virtual assistant. So I hired a virtual assistant, and she was phenomenal, but I was not good at delegating. So it was a frustrating experience for both of us that I wouldn't take the time to delegate to her because I was so knee deep with my work. But hello, that's the whole point of having a virtual assistant to help you with that. So I after 2 years, I finally learned what we parted ways, and she's again phenomenal. But we parted ways, and then 2 years later, I'm like, okay, I think I know now the stuff that can be delegated away and the stuff that only I can work on. And I've been with my amazing assistant Laura for I think 3 or 4 years now. She's amazing. So I wasn't always good at that, but since that time, I definitely learned. Okay, ask for referral. Oh, another time, when I did my first website, yeah, my first website, I hired a follower for my one of my I think from TikTok. She's like, I love your work and I've been following you forever. And I do website design. And I looked at some of her portfolio, it looked decent, but when she had to cook up the stuff for me, it was so off base. She completely missed the mark. And that time too, I'm just like, okay, this didn't work out. So I've learned since then to ask for recommendations from successful peers that are doing it. If you, for example, my friend Minda Hart, she had a really good speakers reel that she promoted recently on her LinkedIn, and she's like, "This is a new speakers reel. Check it out." And I'm like, "Who did it?" Right? Like if they're the right people, they won't gatekeep and they'll tell you who did it. I know I've asked you for a bunch of recommendations, like for tax experts now that I've moved abroad. So that's a shortcut for sure to getting those good hires, doing it through referrals and people who you trust who've actually worked with them. Thank you for the kind words, Stacy. I appreciate it. And I mean, I there's zero regrets whatsoever about working with you. If anything, I tell everybody, shout out from the rooftops that you are the book coach to invest in. I was lucky enough to be able to work with you one on one, which for me that was the best option. I needed that time, and I had the grant money to be able to pay for that. You work in different styles, right? So I know you have courses, but then you have a group coaching program. Let's see here. So you're having a group coaching program come up in April, I believe, for writers who are ready to write their book. Can you share details about what's included, when enrollment closes, when the program starts, and what authors can expect at the end of the program?
Yeah, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about that. I really appreciate it. So, this is a 6-month program for authors that are wanting to finish the first draft of their nonfiction book. Normally, your first draft will end up being somewhere in the 40 to 50,000 word range. Eventually, you'll get it in that 50 to 60,000 word range in your editorial process. But it's not just getting the draft done, it's also finding clarity around your messaging, your language. Pulling together your many stories and all together into this thing that really is meant to do something in the world that's in alignment with your big vision. The program is also one of the things I love about it is we also bring in expert guests. So this next cohort, we're bringing in an editor so you can kind of learn about that process and feel more comfortable moving into that stage. We'll have a hybrid publisher coming in, a PR expert, and a speaking coach. So you get both the support of this program, the cohort that you get a journey with, and then these experts that you get to connect with. And then after the program, you get access to my community, the Author Influence Circle, for 3 months. So that's all around the business of being an author. Gio has an amazing training in there on building a book launch street team, which is
We
so
just
good.
recorded it like a month or
Yeah,
two ago, right?
yeah. This is the one that no, that one is in the new education, but then we
Okay.
had the one that you did a while back, like a year ago or something, I
Oh,
think,
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
the
Oh, that
Author
was a
Influence
while
Circle.
ago.
I have people still, it's like a signed watch for everybody for my program because it's so good.
Good.
And this program closes for enrollment April 13th, 2026. And if you're interested, please feel free to reach out to me, Stacy at stacyennis.com, and just tell me that Geo sent you because, yeah, you're like instant, like mega 5 stars in my eyes that you came from Giovanna's amazing community and ecosystem. So that's the program.
Good. Thank you. So it opens, enrollment closes when? And then when does the
April
program start?
13th. Oh,
April 13th.
it's yeah, the first call is toward the end of April, but we send out sorry, I don't have the exact dates right in front of me, but it's a little bit after the 13th we send out your pre-work. So as part of the preparation for the program, I ask you to do a visioning activity. I have an overview of the process and just some things to get you organized and ready to start at the end of the month.
Yeah, and I do have those dates here with me. So it seems
Oh,
like
yes.
enrollment closes
My
on
team is more on top of it than me today, Giovanna.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So the enrollment closes on the 13th. So you have till the 13th to enroll. And then the program start date is on the 14th. And then the first live call is on the 28th. And this is for a 6-month program. What about for somebody who's like, this is amazing, Stacy, I definitely want to work with you, but right now it's just not the season. Do you do this in the summer? Do you do this in the fall? How often do you run these?
I normally run it in April and October. However,
Mhm.
I'm not 100% sure I'm running an October cohort this year because we have a retreat in November. So I'm still just determining the flow of all the things to make sure that I can give 100% to that cohort. Very likely we will, but it remains to be seen. And if not, then my next cohort would run in April of next year.
Okay, awesome. Good to know. And Stacy, as we finish up this conversation, where can people find you? What are your favorite platforms to be on? We want all the plugs.
Yeah, so I'm at Stacy Ennis on Instagram. I'm Stacy Ennis on LinkedIn, and my website, stacyennis.com. So it's STACYENNIS.com. And then the podcast, Beyond Better. Gio, maybe we should link to an episode with you in the show notes so they
Yes.
can hear you on
Yes.
that podcast.
Yes, I'll include that episode as well as my favorite episode from your podcast, which is the one about the true ROI of a book. And
Yeah,
I
it's an
told you I
oldie but
listened.
a goodie. Yeah.
It's so good. And it's short. It's like 15, 20 minutes. And it's just on those days when I'm like, why am I doing this? why,
Yes.
why did I sign up for this? Hearing that over. And I probably listened to it 5 or 7 times, and it really helped keep the momentum going. So yes, her podcast is amazing, and she shares a lot of insights on all kind of stages of the book writing process. So just in the beginning, in the middle of like how to deal with editors, and then at the end about publishing, getting the word out. And then what I would also highly recommend is your newsletter. Like you mentioned in the beginning that you get replies to your newsletter. It's so good. She doesn't spam you. Like when people spam me, I immediately like spam block, delete, report. And I love receiving your emails. There's a
Thanks.
few
That means a
creators that I
lot.
love. Yeah, no, because again, you can tell it's you. It's you,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of thought into it. So I've learned so much from your emails. So we'll include the link to sign up for your newsletter and for your podcast as well. And Stacy, any last words you'd like to share with aspiring Latina authors listening to this podcast?
Well, I hope that you listen to this for a reason today and that you're inspired by Gigi because I just know that book is within you. This is the thing, like when I work with new authors, I am not helping them uncover a book. It's just that that book's already within them. It's already there. You just have
Yeah.
to uncover it and learn the process and follow it through. And it's completely doable and learnable, and you can do it, and it's worthy. And if you feel that call, you should make it happen, whether it's me or somebody else that guides you. I hope that this episode inspired you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much, Stacey, for having you on. And let's see here. Thank you, listeners, for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It adds credibility to the show. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer on the next pod, email at hi@thefirstgenmentor.com. Thanks for listening, and hasta la próxima. Bye, Stacey.
Bye. Thank you.